Hello and welcome to the Story Impact Author Interview Series. I'm Lisa Tolles. I started this series because I was seeing a gap in the publishing industry. Not enough speaking opportunities for authors to talk about their upcoming books and their artistic vision, about the impact that they hope those books make on their reading community, and why they matter to the world right now. So these conversations are about that meaning these stories bring and how that deepens our human experience. I'm also a crime novelist, and you can find my books on Amazon and through other retailers. And to learn more, go to lisatolles.com. All right, so let's get started today. I am so excited to be talking with my friend and award-winning novelist, Bob Emery, who's got a really impressive pedigree in the film industry, as well as 9 novels in print. Bob's career as a producer, director, and writer in both film and television spans 4 decades, including Swimming Upstream, For God and Country, the director's series on Stars, The Genocide Factor, a PBS miniseries, among many others. And his fiction and nonfiction books have won literary awards, including a Pan America, Author's Circle, and Reader's Favorite Awards. And today we'll be talking about his latest release, Megastar. All right, Bob, welcome, and thanks for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I have a pulse, Lisa. And I tell people, if you get up in the morning and you check your pulse and it's not there, lie down for about a half hour and try again.
So, reading through your long and storied career, I mean, wow, there's just a lot to take in there. You know, you've left your mark all over the entertainment industry. And what's especially interesting to me is the origins of that in things like your military experience in the Air Force, and following that, the opening of your ad agency. And it seemed to sort of snowball ahead after that. Did you have any inkling back then what your future career might look like and the impact of your work in television and film?
The honest answer is I had a goal, and that goal was to be in film, but I didn't know how to do it. I had no experience whatsoever. But I had been writing short stories since I was a young teenager. Don't know why, but I wrote little stories about my dog died or whatever. And I had a teacher who encouraged me, and so I kept writing, and I kept writing in the Air Force. And I spent the last 2 years of my time in Armed Forces Radio on Guam, of all places.
Oh.
And when I got out, I just said, I really want to do this. How do I do it? And I didn't know how. So the ad agency came along. That led to television commercials. I started directing television commercials. That was my entry into the film business. The next thing I knew, I was doing some corporate films, and in my spare time, I was writing screenplays. And I actually got my first one that I wrote, I actually got it produced. And it just went from there. One of the things was that I had made up my mind early on that I would do this independently, that I didn't want to be quote unquote in Hollywood. It didn't interest me. And I had some friends that I had met. One of them was Joe Sargent, who was a very well-known filmmaker. And I was at Universal Studios, and I ran into him, and he said, Bob, my best advice is get on a plane, go home. You'll find a way to do this. Don't do it here. And I walked away from a 3-picture deal with Universal, believe it or not. A movie of the week. And I just lived independent ever since. Made 8 feature films, over 160 hours worth of documentaries for television. And it was all through my own company.
And you did it on your own terms. And I think that's an amazing part of your story, too. Well, you've obviously done a great deal of screenwriting and also nonfiction writing over the years. I'm curious to hear more about where the pull toward fiction came from. I know you said you wrote stories as a kid, but how did that kind of come back to you again on the later part of your writing journey?
After spending 4 decades in the motion picture business, I retired, and I said I've always wanted to write books. And I didn't really know where to start, but along came a fellow by the name of Lauren Michaels, who produces Saturday Night Saturday Night Live, and he had a book company.
Hmm.
And I had started producing in 1994. I started producing the directors, and Lauren's company approached me and said, "Would you do a series of books on all these directors? Because you must have interviewed them longer than what you can use in an hour show." And the answer was yes. So I ended up writing 4 books for them. And then came my first novel, The Autopsy of Planet Earth. I have no idea where that story came from, but it came to me.
Well,
And
so much for that question then. Keep going.
I mean, it's just, it kept mushrooming. And then I wrote another nonfiction book. And then of the 9 books, only 3 of them were novels, but they were the most fun, as you know.
I totally agree. I don't write nonfiction books. I do write some nonfiction, but I'm strictly fiction. So that was going to be one of my questions is that I've been dying to ask you in the time that we've known each other and been friends through Indies United Publishing is how did you develop the skills to switch gears the way you do? You've written a sci-fi novel, The Autopsy of Planet Earth, a crime novel called Midnight Black, not to mention all your nonfiction. How do the mechanics of that work for you?
That's a very good question. And I just write what it is that I want to write. There's no such thing as a genre for me.
Hmm.
It's the story. So the 3 novels all fall into different genres. With the nonfiction, there was 4 books I told you about, and then there was another one which is still going very well, called America Standing Strong, because I was just livid with what I was seeing and I had to express myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I put that book out. I
Mm-hmm.
also, by the way, put another one out called The Diary of Diaries. Trump's tweets that give me the runs. And I assembled 400, a little over 400 of his tweets and put them in this book. And it was essentially his voice, not mine. I just put this thing together. In fact, it started out as a joke. And my wife said to me, "What a great book." That's the story of that one. It hit
Wow.
number 1 on that Amazon. I mean,
Oh
it
my
was great.
God. Wow. All
But
right.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about your new book because this is really what this series is about is helping authors promote their new releases and making it so that viewers and readers can do more than just read about the author and the book on the back of the book. They can actually hear the author's voice and hear your vision for it. So my personal theory has always been that there's really no such thing as fiction. And at least in some way, we as authors are pulling in parts of our inner selves and our past and our baggage and how we see the world into our books. So with that in mind, is Addison Stone from Megastar you in some way?
I suppose to some extent, I'll make this as brief as possible. I had this idea that I wanted to write a story about a man's life from his birth to his death. I had no idea who he was, what he did, and I went around with this thing in my head. Um, People are going to laugh when I tell them this. I'm a big Andrea Bocelli fan. I have his albums recorded on a thumb drive and I play them in my car. And I was driving around one day and I'm listening to him and I said, whoa, wait a minute. What if I wrote about a young kid at 19 years old that overnight becomes an international singing star? But he's got a terrible background from his upbringing. He was abused, da 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 da. And one thing led into another, and Addison Stone was born. Addison is named after Addison, Alabama. Don't ask me why. I was looking at a map. I wanted him to live someplace. I saw Addison, and I thought, well, his mother's going to name him Addison. The background is very important to the rest of the book.
Yep.
And the mother was abused as a child, and she did kind of the same thing to him. And suddenly he doesn't know how to deal with the success. He gets into his first romance, but his fame and fortune is getting in the way, and she splits. Um, if I, they do get back together, but if I say too much more, I give it away.
Yeah, no spoilers. No, that's interesting.
You know, in a sense, I think you're right. I think we all put a little bit of ourselves into the characters. Why wouldn't we write about what we know? Um, but with me, it has to be a story that I truly want to write. I don't sit and write just to put out a movie. Or I'd have 6 novels out or more. I just have to be in love with the story. And oh, here's another thing. I never outline. I figure out who my characters are, basically what the story's about, and how I want to end it. And then I fill it in as I go. I surprise myself many times.
So your characters are essentially developing the plot. You leave it up to them.
That's a good way to put it.
It's an incredible act of trust in your artistic voice and surrender. You know, I mean, like I think, you know, I'm not casting any aspersions on people who outline books. I mean, I have a lot of friends who do it that way, and I have also friends who are kind of a little bit of both. I'm sort of that too, but you know, having an outline kind of gives you a roadmap and control, but you might not see as many cool things along the way if you have that outline. Yeah, interesting.
I think I write a better scene when I start writing it and I really don't know where it's going. I know what I want to say, I know what I want to accomplish. The characters kind of take me there. The other thing is I spend a lot of time on characters. I don't care how small they are in the book or whatever. So the reader gets a sense of who that individual is. And uh, that's a hard, but as well as I, that's a hard thing to do, to
Mm-hmm.
make all these characters slightly a little bit different. Some talk differently, and so forth and so on. But I think that that's helps the reader enjoy to get to know you. You feel like you're part of it.
Absolutely. And I think readers, in the same way that that you and I probably write fiction to have a sense of escape, they want that sense of escape too. You know, I mean, so yeah, that's all right. So I want to talk about the publishing industry because looking back on it, it's so radically changed and it's changed so many times. So looking at those new opportunities and new challenges in the publishing industry right now and the experience for writers, what do you know now that you wish you knew 20 years ago?
Hmm. Um, I'm not sure anything, and what I mean by that is I learned about writing books like I learned about shooting movie as I went. I mean, Lisa, the first time my Autopsy was my first book, and I wrote about 5 chapters, 6 chapters, and I handed it to my wife, and she handed it back to me, and I said, "What's the problem?" She said, "This reads like a screenplay," and I went, "Oh, right." You know, she said, "If you have something to say, you got to transfer that to the reader bound," and it just reads to me like one of your screenplays. So I went back, and it was the best lesson because I hadn't written a novel before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The transition was a big one.
Yeah.
But that book has won a lot of awards. So I did something right.
Um, Bob, let's reflect, aside from a particular book, just back to you as the creator of these stories. What would you say is your purpose as a writer?
I like to believe that I have something to say. If you read my books, you'll see that I have something to say. I'm trying to make a point through these characters. Again, if I cannot fall in love with a story, uh, I trash it. Sometimes I write a couple of chapters and go rip. Or actually, and I move on.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I guess maybe that's why I have three books that are different genres, because it was all about the story. I never thought about, well, Autopsy is 2 volumes. That means it. But I think most writers get in love with, don't you agree that most writers say, I really need to write this, and this is what I want.
I see it a couple different ways. I meet a lot of writers early in their career that see an opening in the publishing industry and they want to fill it. You know, I mean, like that's an opportunity for them, and they're writing for a market and for a genre. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I like to guide readers at that stage in their writing to write what's in here and like find a market for it later. You know, I mean, like write the story that's like bubbling out of you right now, because that's where the energy is. That's where the heart is going to be behind, like, you know, articulating the actual stages of the story. And you need that meat and that energy to keep readers flipping the pages.
I think you're absolutely right. Write from your heart, believe in the story, and believe that you have to write it, or don't do it. You're
Yep.
wasting time. And we go back, let's go back to the industry for a minute, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult now, as you know. There's millions of books out. I mean, I read somewhere where, if I remember right, Amazon alone puts out 3 million books a year. Right? Forgive me if I'm off by a million, but I think it was 3. Well, that's just one. Now you've got all these other places that, you know, especially if you go wide,
Mm-hmm.
um, you're fighting for position. You're fighting to say, look at my book.
Right.
And it's hard.
Yep.
It's hard. I spend most of my time now promoting 3-month novels. I haven't written anything in 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Promote, 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 promote. Because if you don't, you're not going to sell any books. Nobody's going to know you're there.
I
And
think
that's a gripe I have. I think a lot of writers put out a book and go, okay, it's out there. And then they wonder why they sold 10 copies, mostly the family. And you've just got a part of the writing process is marketing, marketing, marketing. You have to learn about it.
I totally agree. I think we have to do more than just write a good book and spend the time and the energy and the expense editing it to bring up the quality of it. We have to actually go through tactics to reach our readers and to go where they are. I mean, if you're getting a lot of response on Instagram, post your ads and your promotion on Instagram. If you're getting a lot of traction on TikTok, do it there, or on Twitter X, or, you know, like, or book clubs, wherever you're able to reach readers. That's what we have to keep doing. And as you said, differentiating in an incredibly crowded marketplace. And really our job is to be visible and be memorable so that we can stand out. Well, I think you do a really good job of that. I got some a promotional email from you this morning, and I thought that looked really good. And I was like, he never quits, this guy. You're like an Energizer bunny, continually putting it out there. And that's what you have to.
I hit send before I looked at it, and it was kind of scrambled a little bit.
It's fine. Bob, what's
But in any case, you have to keep, you know this, you have to keep at it and keep at it and keep at it. And
Yep.
it's time consuming.
Yeah, it is.
And you got to try to be creative about it. It's not easy. Just
Well,
writing, who cares? Now you got to get out there and sell it. And thank God, by the way, you and I are with Lisa. Not you, Lisa, Lisa.
our publisher, Lisa from Indies
Yeah,
United. Yes. Well, don't you think that marketing, that the energy of marketing, this is one of my not gripes, but just kind of challenges, is that the energy of marketing and promotion and graphic design and all that other crap that we do as an author, that's not the actual executing the story. Don't you think it takes a very different type of energy to produce that than the create energy that we're doing to write our books?
yeah. And I come out of, I come out of the advertising businesses background, where I had mostly retail clients. And my creativity it taught my brain to think creatively, because now I got all these clients are looking to me to help sell their products. So that kind of developed my brain a little bit. So
Mhm.
now I don't know if I accomplish it or not, but now before I do a post on social media, it's thought out. What is it that you want to say? What is it that you want them to go away with?
Mm.
Again, I don't know if I always succeed, but that's the way I approach it.
You know, you said, I don't know if I always succeed. I would take that a step further and say, I don't know if there's one particular formula that works all the time and works for every book and works in different platforms. I think we've had to become, as authors, incredibly agile to shift over here and to like change the message this way and that way. And it's
And
exhausting.
reviews, don't forget reviews, very important. I
Yeah.
just got a review not too long ago from Net Gallery, last week in fact, and it was one sentence, and the guy said, "Wow, what a cool cover," and it was a lot of good stuff between the covers.
Oh, that's
And,
a great
and
review.
it just blew me away, because it just said what I would have said
Yeah,
myself. He loved the cover, then he loved the story.
that's awesome.
I'm sure you're familiar with Net Gallery.
Yeah, yes. All right, well, who's your cover artist while we're talking about covers? Give them a little.
Tatiana, what's the last? Oh my God.
I think Tatiana Fernandez with Vila Design, right?
Yeah, yes, right.
She's
She's done all my covers.
she's
I
done.
found that picture, and then I said, use this picture and
And can
turn
you
it.
hold it up
Oh, absolutely. Where are we?
back a little bit further? There it is. Yep. Uh-huh. Oh, that's a great cover.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so she put it together. I usually, I'll either tell her what I want, or I'll find a picture like this, and then I turn it loose.
Uh-huh.
She's
Uh-huh.
very good. She does it, and she's very inexpensive, and she does good work.
Mm-hmm. I agree. She's designed my last like 5 or 6 covers, and
Good, so you know who.
oh yes. All right. So what would you say the impact you hope, what is the impact that you hope Megastar will have on your readers? Thinking about Addison and his challenges and his journey and what happens to him in the book.
I think that a Megastar is a story of a life journey that a lot of people can associate with, not necessarily personally, but maybe they had a family member who, God, I don't want to get too much. Um, but to me, I think it's a story of life, um, and the story in my mind is the power of love. I think, without that, you've had a very lonely, empty life, which is what he learns the hard way.
Mm.
Oh God, I want to tell you so much about it. And if I say one more word, I'm going to get in trouble. My wife will see this and say, "Why did you give that away?"
No, don't do it. Don't give it away. So we're going to talk about where people can buy your book and your website, but before that, tell us what you're working on next. What's your next project?
There's two of them, and I don't know which one I want to do. One is political, and I've kind of pulled back a little bit on that because of all the politics that are going on. I don't know if people want to read another political book.
Yeah.
And the other one is that I'm playing with is kind of on the science fiction
Mm,
side.
mm,
I go back to autopsy, and it's not monsters come together. It's a totally different approach.
mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't know. Maybe you know what? I wish that, as I said to you earlier, I'm so busy marketing. Right? I haven't written anything in 4 months except a few notes on these 2 books that I'm thinking of. The one is the political one. I would love to be able to write, but I think it's the wrong time.
It could be the right time. I mean, like not only is this an election year, but I mean, like I think wherever you are on the political spectrum, you can probably agree that this is probably going to be the most memorable election since the birth of our country.
In my lifetime, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, it'll be interesting to see which one you pick up, and I'll be watching certainly. So again, this is Story Impact, a YouTube series intended to showcase authors, their writing journey, and the unique perspectives that drive the creation of their books. So please visit robertjemeryauthor.com to check out Megastar. And thank you so much for joining us today. And let's keep those stories.
Can I just add, it's my pen name, RJ Eastwood, that I write novels in. Don't ask me why.
But your website is
robertjemeryauthor.com.
okay, and Emery is Emery.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bob, and thank you, viewers, for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.